Welcome back. Now, Minister in the Presidency, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, on Monday said that the manipulation of the rand is part of the private sector's efforts to collapse government. And this follows last week's Competition Commission Tribunal's announcement that it had entered into a settlement agreement with Standard Chartered, which admitted liability and agreed to pay an administrative penalty of 42.7 million rand. Now, there have been calls for tougher consequences against banking institutions that played a role in this collusion by the lenders to manipulate the rand from those who have found the 42.7 million rand settlement by the Commission to be a slap on the wrist. Makgale Mohlala is head of Cartels at the Competition Commission. He joins us now virtually to unpack more of what is going on here. Mr. Mohlala, thanks for your time. Welcome to Morning Live.
Thank you. Good morning to you and good morning to the viewers.
So the facts before us is that it's been found that between 2007 and 2013, various banks, 28 of them to be exact, fixed prices of bids, of bid-offer spreads and of spot trades of rand pairs, and this, of course, with the US dollar. So let's perhaps just start by explaining in layman's terms what exactly was happening.
Thank you. So indeed, from 2007 to 2013, the Commission's investigations found that banks have engaged in the manipulation of the currency pair of rand and dollar. So in simple terms, what it means is that because banks they trade with mandates, buy and sell money in the market. So there's a market for buying and selling of money. So when you have dollars and you want to convert them into rands, you've got to use the dollars to buy the rand. If you have the rands, you want to convert them into dollars, you have to take the rands and buy the dollars. So you do this through banks. Banks sell money on and buy money on behalf of clients, but they also do that on their own behalf. So you've got to approach the bank with the money, you give them, they buy you the currency. So what they were doing is that they were coming together and agreeing that this is how much we're going to be buying the dollar, for instance, or this is how much we're going to be selling the rand. It depends on where, what is it that they want to do. If they want to buy, they agree on buying. If they want to sell, they agree on selling. But also they work together that in order for the rand not to gain too much value and become expensive, whilst they want to be, buying the dollars. So they would agree that let's manipulate the value so that it is at a level where we are able to, buy it cheaper. So they will agree on the level at which they should be buying or selling that particular currency, depending on where do they make the profit. If they're making the profit on the selling, then they'll make sure that they hike the value higher. If they make the profit on the buying, they make sure that they will reduce the value so that they buy cheaper and make profit. So in a most simplest term, that is how I would put it.
And with regard to how they exactly managed to come together, is there any evidence at this stage to suggest how the collusion actually came about?
Yes, indeed, there is a chat rooms that traders use. It's Bloomberg chat room. There's also a Reuters chat room. Those are instant messaging platforms. So you've got to log in and then you communicate with your fellow traders about what is it that you want to do. So they were using that platform to communicate among themselves and to execute whatever strategies and decisions they were communicating about. For example, someone will say, I have an order of $100 million that I need to sell. So can you please not enter the trade so that I can sell it expensively, or I have an order of rents that I need to buy. Can you please not buy so that I can someone else can buy it expensively? So they were communicating from the chat rooms, and so those chat rooms basically were used as the platform for their collusion.
So that would suggest, Mr. Mohlala, that those involved, the 28 banks that were cited, were obviously very comfortable with what they were doing, knowing full well that it was in fact illegal. But there was a certain level of comfort there where it seemed as though they didn't think that they would be found out at any point.
Correct. I mean, a cartel, when it operates, they know very well, because given the nature of the secrecy that it operates, they know very well that no one will catch them. And we must say here that we are grateful that Barclays came forward and spilled the beans on these banks and provided us with all the evidence that show that they were manipulating the rand, including the charts themselves. So it's only through simple terms, they say whistleblowing, that you get to find out about some of these cartels that are very secretive, deep secrets that you'd never know unless one of them come forward and tell you. So the Commission has a corporate leniency policy that it encourages cartelists, anyone who is a member of a cartel, to come forward and spill beans in return for immunity from prosecution. So Barclays approached the Commission and spilled the beans, and they were given leniency for that.
So at this point, Mr. Mohlala, what the public seems to be interested in is, one, how much did these cartels, did this cartel make in the period in question? And also, there's concern about the settlements with the two entities that have agreed to work with you, which is Standard Chartered and, of course, back in 2017, a Citibank. So how much did they make?
Well, it's a very difficult question. And actually, I indicated in another interview that trading, not the cartel, trading of currency globally, it's trillions of rands a day. So as to which particular transaction has been subjected to a collusion, if you imagine it happens second by second, as I speak to you now, there's a trading that takes place second by second. So the volume is extremely high, and it's not easy to go and identify with certainty each and every little transaction that has been exposed to manipulation, because there are other transactions in the trading that are not manipulated. Trading of innocent people who don't know. So, but they get to be in one pot of trading. So it's very difficult, but obviously what we know is that, cartels in their very nature are designed to make profits. So firms collude simply because they want to maximize their profit. So what we can say is that they have made profit, but at this stage where we are not able to quantify, perhaps at the trial stage, because this matter is still going for trial of the 23 remaining banks. That's where final details will be unearthed. But at this stage, we are working with what we have, and we are not able to quantify with certainty the amount of profits they have made, but they have made profit.
So just on a point of clarity there.
So the second question.
Before we get to that, Mr. Mohlala, my apologies. Just for clarity's sake, we understood that it was 28 banks in total, of which there have been settlements with 2, as I understand, Citibank and Standard Chartered. You say that you're going to trial with 23. Did I hear you correctly?
Yes, you heard me correctly, so I can explain it to you.
Yes, please.
Barclays has got its 2 subsidiaries that got leniency. So it was ABSA at the time, because they were controlled by Barclays, and another Barclays entity and the Barclays holding company. So there were 3. Then now you have Citibank as well as Standard Chartered. So all in all, you have 5 out of the 28. And these 5 are now our witnesses. So our case is getting stronger and stronger against the remaining one, which is why we continue to encourage the remaining one to come forward and settle, because as the case gets stronger and stronger, they get more and more exposed. And as we can get to prosecution, we are very sure that we will succeed in our prosecution against them.
So coming back now to the second part, which I interrupted you on, Mr. Mohlala. So the public, there's an outcry saying if these banks were making trillions of rands per day in manipulating the currency, how come Standard Chartered gets a 42 million rand settlement, Citibank 70 million? People feel that that is literally just a slap on the wrist. So how is that determined?
Yeah, so let me clarify first, a correction perhaps, that I did not say they are making trillions in collusion. I'm saying trading of currency. It trades in trillions. So there has to be a distinction there. So you've got to understand that you are facing 20 something, but 23 now. It was 25 before. It's a strong cartel. It's a very strong cartel. So what you need to do strategically, you've got to weaken the cartel in order to dismantle it. So otherwise you will not win. You have a competition commission that is prosecuting 28 banks, 23. You could imagine how strong are banks vis-a-vis an agency of government, that its budget, I don't even know, it's so minute compared to the banks. So you've got to be smart enough to want to win over number of banks to be on your side, to weaken the other ones so that you can be able to successfully prosecute them. Because all what you need is a successful prosecution and a fine, so that you can dismantle this cartel. So when you discuss settlement with those banks, there are consideration about penalty, whether a penalty should be high or low. And some of those considerations include whether it's strategically assisting your case of prosecuting others. In other words, are they giving me evidence? Are they giving me witnesses? So when you get that, so you can't then punish them in a manner that you are punishing, similar to the one that you are punishing someone who has been found guilty. But someone who has found guilty, you've run through the entire trial. So we made decision, and these are not small settlements. I need to clarify that. Remember, these penalties are based on the size of the firms in the country, not international. So Citibank was penalized based on its turnover in the Republic, so as Standard Chartered. So those figures, the 64 million and the 42 million, the 68 million, so they are not small figures relative to the size of these firms in the country. Of course, if you're looking at their sizes globally, it will be a small figure, but locally, where they are, the law says we must look at when we punish them. They are not, those figures are not small. In fact, these banks in the country, they are not bigger banks. They are not even bigger than Standard Bank, Nedbank. They are smaller, extremely smaller.
Mr. Mohlala?
So those figures are not small, and I think maybe it's very important to explain it so that everybody understands it.
I think
it's not small. What is small is
Mr.
the fact in the country.
Mr. Mohlala, can I please ask you, because I think it is an important explanation. Mr. Mohlala, thanks so much for your time, and thanks for staying with us. We were still talking about the perception that the banks, those who you've settled with, are essentially getting away with murder, and that people feel that the punishment does not fit the crime. And to add fuel to that fire, Minister in the Presidency, Khumbudzo Ntshavheni, also said that sterner consequences should be taken against these banks. And you were explaining to us how you arrived at those settlement figures.
Yes, and I think the most important thing for everyone to know is that these banks are not big in South Africa. So you can't expect that they be punished, paid trillions when they are small. I've already said they are smaller than Nedbank Absa and Standard Bank, if they are smaller than South African banks, they have an office or a branch in the country for trading, taking orders and executing them. So their turnover in the Republic is not as big as people think. So, and as a result of that, because when we fine based on your annual turnover in the Republic. So on the basis of that, then you can't then have a higher fine because you are dealing with a smaller bank. So if it was a bigger bank, I would understand the complaint, but I don't now because these are smaller banks. But I also said that there are other strategic considerations because you want to dismantle the cartels. We've got to encourage as many of them as possible to come and settle so that they can help you to prosecute those that are not settling and ultimately dismantle the cartel. Because what is most important at the end of the day is to dismantle the cartel, that it doesn't continue to operate and continue to harm the economy and the citizens of this country. That is the most important thing we've got to do, is to dismantle it.
So with regard to the Standard Chartered example, does this mean that there's been full disclosure on their part of their exact involvement in this cartel?
Yes, I mean, that is the requirement for settlement. When you settle, you've got to come out clean. Tell us what you did, give us the evidence. We want those charts, give us those charts, who you were chatting with, which is why I kept on saying to the other banks that the evidence is becoming so overwhelming that I don't understand why they are defending themselves. They must come and settle, because this evidence cannot be challenged. These are charts from their traders manipulating the rand and dollar currency pair. Why are you defending yourself against such an avalanche of evidence, overwhelming evidence?
So if there's full disclosure, Mr. Mohlala, did they tell you exactly how much they made in profits over that period?
No, they remember what we want in the first place, which is why I said that those details may come out on trial when witnesses take stands to account for what happened. But at this stage, what we're looking for is evidence of manipulation. Excuse me. Evidence of manipulation. Give us the charts which shows that you were part of the scheme, who you were part with, what did you do. So we do have transactions, for example, that were manipulated, but I'm saying it's not all. So you can't make pronouncements on them when you don't have a full picture. I mean, there are transactions. We're selling, we've got 100 million we want to sell, we've got 100,000, million rands or dollars that we need to sell. So those transactions, in this how trading works. You put in the money in the market, someone buys it, or so you have those bits and pieces. You can't make pronouncements on them about exactly how much was made or how much was manipulated at this stage.
Yeah, but what do you what would you stand to lose, Mr. Mohlala, if you ask them that, given that you are now at a point where they are providing full disclosure? Surely they would have quantified how much they actually stood to gain over that period.
Yeah, look, you lose nothing, but you also gain nothing, because at the end of the day, what is key is the evidence of manipulation. So we want to know, who did you... You can ask it as a by the way question. We can still ask them now. Nothing stops us. But I'm just saying it does not necessarily add into evidence. It's just bringing additional facts on the table.
Fair enough. But the reason I'm asking that is with regard to this settlement figure. And if you had known, for example, exactly how much they made in profits, would that have altered the figure that you ultimately slapped on them as a settlement?
Not necessarily. Remember, profit is a fraction of of turnover. So turnover, it's made up of profit and losses. So we take into account the overall figure. If we were to look at profit, how much they profited, you'd probably have arrive at a small figure in terms of the penalty.
Mr. Mohlala,
So annual turnover is bigger than just the profit.
I'm going to have to let you go shortly, but just one more question. With regard to the impact of this manipulation on pensioners and pension funds, has that been established?
Well, what we can say is that this currency manipulation has an impact on things like the pension fund, because they do invest money overseas. They buy and sell money through the banks. The manipulation will have an impact on them, and any other person who invests money will have an impact. Ultimately, the economy is impacted by a currency manipulation. So the answer to the question is yes. It impacted anybody who puts their money in the forex market. They were impacted by currency manipulation.
And what would their recourse be? Is there any recourse for them? Would there be any recourse for pension funds, for example?
Yeah, I mean, the law is clear that once someone pleads guilty to contravening Competition Act, whoever has been affected or harmed by that behavior can approach the Competition Tribunal, ask for a certificate, and launch a lawsuit, the damages claim in the High Court, and recover whatever money they would have lost. So there is another leg to this that the public can take. All what we are doing, we are creating a platform for them to take this thing forward. It's not our duty to sue these banks for damages. It's the citizens' duties to do that. So, and I think they should do that.
All right. Mr. Makgale Mohlala, thank you so much for your time and for your indulgence this morning. Head of Cartels at the Competition Commission, giving us the Commission's view on concerns that have been raised about the 42 million rand settlement by Standard Chartered Bank for its admission for its role in the currency manipulation saga. And Mr. Mohlala explaining that to us, and of course the recourse that is available to those who were affected.